All right, so we're going to be talking about blocks and deflections today, and it's important to note that when we're working with blocks and deflections, really what we're talking about is covering particular areas of space. All right, so what I mean by that is, for example, the first block and deflection we're going to be looking at when we start with our hands up is just going to be with the palm to clear to the side, right? Just covering this area of space up here, followed by 3 straight punches. For example, we'll go clear, 1, 2, 3. Clear, 1, 2, 3. Clear, 1, 2, 3. Clear, 1, 2, 3. So that's just a really simple way that we can practice individual movements and develop these skills as intended. So this one is called Pak-Sao. The next area that we're looking to cover is the opposite side. So if a strike moves in over here, then we can adapt one of 2 ways. One way we can adapt is through what's called Bong-Sao. So we're going to make a fist, drive out, and rotate up using the blade of our arm for this one, followed by a strike down the center. Driving up, strike down the center. Now there's 2 important pieces when we're doing the Bong-Sao. One piece is that I want to make sure that I'm relying on the bigger muscles of my body. So it is not a lift. I'm not using the deltoid here. What I'm looking to do is almost like an incline bench press, as if I had a dumbbell that I was driving up and rotating out. So that's a much clearer idea. And the Bong-Sao comes from a strike that has cross pressure. And we'll demonstrate that in context in a little bit. But for right now, I want you to just understand that you're driving in and up, bringing this other arm inside, so by the time this hinges, the other hand can take up the center and defend. The next block and deflection that we're going to look at is Tan-Sao. And Tan-Sao also defends this area, but from an opponent's slightly different position. And it'll often be in conjunction with a sidestep. Again, we'll show that later. For right now, what's important about this is that we're actually going to use this surface in between our 2 arm bones, in between our ulna and radius. So I want to think about bringing the elbow in first, then driving this hand forward, so I use this angle to defend and this angle to defend. And my other hand is going to come right from the center. Elbow in, using the Tan-Sao, other strike down the center. So that's these 2 areas up here. Now we've got another area, which is this big center area in the middle. What I want to think about doing for that area is I'm going to use this edge again that we used for Bong-Sao, except this time I'm going to rotate it in. And again, I want to rely on the bigger muscles. So I'm not pulling across necessarily, right? I'm driving forward, angling in, and pulling back down. And so I've got much more chest and back action with it. The other hand, the supporting hand, is going to come in first and drive forward. And when I put those 2 together, it'll look like this. This is Jum-Sao. The next area that we can focus on is the low parts. And if it's right in front or slightly to the side, I can use the palm surface again, very similar to the way that I used it for Pak-Sao. I can come straight down, other hand comes right down the center to support, to follow up with additional straight punches. Let's take a look at that. Gum-Sao. And finally, we have Gan-Sao. Gan-Sao. And this again goes back to the blade, the same blade that we used for Bong-Sao, or for jump sow, we can rotate out for gone sow. So when we do that, we can come out and this other hand comes right down the center to protect, finished by 3 straight punches. Now you may have noticed that sometimes I've got my hands open and sometimes I've got my fists closed. All blocks and deflections can be done with open hands or closed hands, and we use this all over the place. So don't get too caught up there. Sometimes we'll go from palm strikes into a bong sow type action, or sometimes we'll be just in straight punches followed by a gone sow type action. It doesn't really matter. What's important about all of these adaptations is they're really just adapted strikes. The blocks and deflections, that's what they are. So that as I'm closing distance between the opponent and myself, I can continue my forward progress and adapt my hands without throwing off my inertia, right? Without going side to side. I'm able to come forward and track as needed, even against an evasive opponent. So now let's go ahead and demonstrate just a few contexts where we use some of these blocks and deflections.